Hi, I'm Iwan Fox and welcome to the latest 4BR Review podcast where I'm joined by my colleague Chris Thomas and our special guest Dr David Thornton to preview the forthcoming RNCM International Brass Band Festival in Manchester. Long regarded as one of the most important artistic events in the banding world, this year it will once again feature performances from leading bands, ensembles and soloists on a wide variety of both new as well as established repertoire, including at least 9 world or UK premieres. In addition, there are also discussions and interviews, whilst the next generation of brass performers will also play an integral part with performances from ensembles and bands from the RNCM as well as the Yorkshire Youth Band. And if you haven't booked your ticket yet for the weekend of Friday the 23rd to Sunday the 25th of January, then you better be quick because tickets are going fast. You go to www.rncm.ac.uk and you'll just go to the festivals part there and make sure that you book your ticket. Lots to get through then, and as always your views and opinions are key, so please be part of the live discussion by posting your comments in the YouTube comments box on the screen, which I think hopefully will just appear as if by magic. Right, first of all then, hi Chris, and a happy new year to you. And it's a year that gets off to a fantastic start, of course, at the RNCM. We've been treated to many memorable festival events there over the years, and this promises to be another cracker.
It does indeed. Yeah, Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to all our listeners as well. Yes, it's always such a great start to the year to head to the Festival of Brass at the end of January. Brightens up a horribly dark and miserable month, doesn't it? So, but I've lost track of how many years we've been going, Ewan. It's a long, long time, isn't it? And I remember, I think my first acquaintance with it was way back in the early 90s when it was actually the BBC Festival of Brass. And I can remember playing there probably early 90s. Paul Hindmarsh was there at that point in time producing it for the BBC back in his days when he was working for the BBC. And my goodness, it's been through some changes and development and evolution since then. But it's my favourite band event of the year by a long way. I mean, it is the premier showcase of high quality brass band music that there is anywhere on the planet, quite honestly. So, and an awful lot to look forward to this year, Ewan, again, as we know.
Well, talking about those changes, one of the changes, of course, was in 2024 when Dr David Thornton became the artistic director, taking over the very big shoes that were vacated by, of course, Paul Hindmarsh. He's really now made his mark on the event. Of course, it is now I got contested on the break. It is now, of course, the RNCM International Brass Band Festival. Yep. And so I'm delighted to say it's been a bit of a rush this evening to make sure that we've got him, but we are joined. There he is. Thank goodness for that.
David.
I think he's been doing his running. He's putting the miles in because he's finally joined us. David, great to have you with us. As we say, you've put a mark on the event since 2024. And so first of all, you must be looking forward to what promises to be another cracker.
Well, as you can imagine, and I think I've said this every year, I'm like a kid in a candy store. It's, when the RNCM invited me to come and help arrange this event, it's just I'm obsessed by brass bands and brass band music, and the idea of spending my time researching, discovering new composers, revisiting our most celebrated composers and best works from the past. It's a brilliant thing to be part of, and a privilege that I can kind of put my fingerprints all over it. I'm excited again. It comes together so well. I mean, there are moments of stress when you think, "Oh my word, what's going to happen? How are we going to put an event on of the quality that we and audiences expect every year?" But I think we've done it. I'm very excited about a lot of it. I know we're going to talk through it, but we're going to have a great weekend for sure.
Well, and myself, Chris, and I know a number of people are looking forward to it. Yeah, before we actually start there, of course, can we reflect on some sad news? And of course, this week I've just seen the passing of John Wallace, CBE, someone I think in his way echoed the very ethos of what goes on with this event, bridging spheres of brass playing, reaching out to new as well as existing audiences. A man of great wit, huge talent and influence in the brass world, not just in brass banding, especially in the classical music world, and as well as in education. And for you, David, I know we've all met him in different ways. He was a man who left a real impression on you.
Oh yeah, for sure. The first time I met John Wallace, it was 1994. So what does that make me? 15, I think, in 94. And he was one of the adjudicators for the brass final, BBC Young Musician of the Year, which I was fortunate enough to get through to that stage at the competition. And I remember speaking to him afterwards. Really warm man, really encouraging, great insight into the performances, really valued what he said to me and remember everything. And then later on, just a few years later, I remember him coming to play the Haydn Concerto with Black Dyke at the Bridgewater Hall at one of the Philip Biggs Great Northern Brass Festivals, I think they were called, weren't they? Yeah. And you sit there in the band. Actually, there's not a lot in the funny parts. I could sit there in the band and listen. And what a nuanced, characterful musician. And that's, I know in my own teaching, my own work at Cheatham's and at the RNCM, I talk to the young players about being characterful with everything you do, phrasing, tone quality, detail in the music, always taking the music somewhere. And that's what I remember from that performance. And actually, because of the things that we've been reading on Facebook, the tributes, I recently listened to a performance of him doing Mahler 5 of the Philharmonia.
Ah, yes.
I think that was the performance that Paul Kosh was talking about, David.
Exactly.
Giuseppe Sinopoli conducting, yeah.
And the playing at the start of that is just... You hear the detail, but the power and the projection, the line that goes through it is just immense.
I mean, I was saying to you, and I was fortunate enough to come across a DVD just before Christmas, and quite poignant now looking back on it. But it was a DVD of the 80th birthday concert of William Walton, and it was the Philharmonia, Previn conducting, John Wallace sitting on principal, John Miller sitting alongside him, playing Walton, playing Belshazzar's Feast and the violin concerto, and Belshazzar's Feast is absolutely stunning. And I look back on it now and think that was just before Christmas. I just happened to come across that DVD, and we knew John was poorly, sadly, but didn't expect the news that we had this week. So.
Well, a man who's going to be very sadly missed, but I think whose spirit of adventure and wit, I think, and more than anything, his talent for communicating his love of brass music.
A deep thinker, Ewan, I think, as well. A man of real gravitas.
Yeah, he wore it lightly, but it was certainly their hallmark. Yeah. So,
have you seen? Sorry,
festival. Go on, Dave. Go on.
So have you seen? There's a clip on social media going around at the moment, which I think really encapsulates John Wallace. I don't know if you've seen it. I think it was part of a documentary, and he's talking about music. He's talking about the art of trumpet playing, the heraldic nature of trumpet playing, and he climbs out his bedroom window onto the roof. Have you seen it? And he's practicing on
I've
his
not
roof.
seen this.
And he plays like a little Scott Joplin piece, doesn't he? He just I see. Sums him up perfectly. Well, in that case, then he would have loved what's going to go on in Youth Festival this weekend. And as we say, there's going to be 9 UK or world premieres. There's fantastic bands, amazing repertoire, brilliant soloists, which is going on. I think we've covered really briefly a little bit of the history there. But going back to you, David, and talking specifically, the festival, as we say, covers such a wide scope and variety of music. But at its core, there's also a celebration. And this year, it's a 75th birthday celebration for the composer Philip Spark. Now, there is a composer who has made his mark on the banding world and the wider musical world. Wherever you go and there's a brass band, somebody has played a Philip Spark piece. So it's wonderful that he was celebrating, and he looks good for 75, I have to say, Philip. I have to do that one. Yeah. So it's great that you're featuring his works throughout the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, how could I not? What a composer, and what a servant. I mean, the amount, the output over the last however many years it has been,
Yeah.
3 or 4 decades, it is great, and the consistent quality is just hit after hit, if you like. And whenever we play anything with the bands I'm conducting, I always introduce his music as being loved by audiences, players, and conductors alike. It's great to conduct, it's great to play, and it's great to listen to, because he keeps players busy. We think about brass bands and our ilk of contesting on the brain. He writes pieces that keep everyone interested. He writes to a brief. He's great at writing. And here's a thing that is really tough for composers: writing pieces of not the most difficult nature, but writing quality music. If you think of a piece like Music for a Festival, I mean, that is just quality music. Not the hardest piece in the world, but it doesn't matter.
I think for me, that's the amazing thing about Philip, is the fact that there isn't a section of contesting music that he hasn't touched, and it's his ability to write a piece that's as effective musically for a 4th section band as one of his barnstorming championship section pieces. I mean, that is an incredible talent, isn't it?
Well, I think we touched on some of the works that he done. I think the earliest is being featured is Concert Prelude from about 1975, right up to date. Lucerne Dances, which I just heard a couple of weeks ago at the Swiss National Championships, and they've all got that hallmark of 24-carat gold craftsmanship about it. Well, we kick off then on Friday night. It's not long now before it, and the festival prelude will be given by the RNCM Euphonium and Baritone Ensemble, conducted by Stephen Mead. There he is on the right-hand side there. It's like a football team lined up there, isn't it? And the coach on the other side, Mr. Thornton there. And they will be in the Carol Nash recital room. It's already sold out. The Carol Nash room is the one that's slightly on the side there. They're going to be doing a selection, really, to introduce everybody to the treats that are ahead. So we got the finale from the Gadfly, Ball of Fire by Pete Smalley. Now, there's a name I know from somewhere. Enlighten us, Pete Smalley.
Peter Smalley was for many. I think. If he hears this and I'm wrong, I apologise. I think he's recently retired.
Oh, right, okay.
He was for many years head of music service or head of brass studies for the Northampton Music Hub. It's called MPAT, isn't it? Northampton Music Performing and Arts Trust, maybe. And I met him down there. He also did a lot of arranging for the British Tuba Quartet, which I was involved in with Stephen Mead for quite a while. Great musician. In fact, Ball of Fire was written for Steve Mead, and a real kind of minimalist showpiece for Euphonium Ensemble. Look, the Euphonium Ensemble and Steve have been rehearsing so intensely for the last couple of months, and Steve's really been driving them. They've done 7 a.m. rehearsals before the college opens, and all kinds of stuff. So that's going to be a great way to start the festival.
Yeah, and Chris, back to you as well. We've dealt so many times, met with Steve, and he always talks about the quality of the students that he's got at the RNCM. And I think, the latest cohort that you've got in there, David, I think speaks volumes to the work that Stephen has done over the years there at the RNCM and the attraction that the RNCM holds globally for brass musicians. So pride, I think, is going to be shown as well as quality with regards to that. So that's the great aperitif. And what a start then we have with the first of the major concerts provided by the Foden's Band, conducted by Michael Fowles, and the Bones Apart Trombone Quartet at the RNCM Concert Hall at 7:30 p.m. Great programme. A Fanfare of Bells by Herman Palhauber, The Green Chapel by Claire Cope, Tranquil Abide In by Paul Miller, Prelude and Courtly Dances from Gloriana, Benjamin Britten, Variations on the Shining River, a new transcription by Philip Littlemore, and Partita by Philip Sparr. There's Claire Cope, and I was just going to ask you first of all, David, about Claire Cope. Very, very interesting composer. Great that she has written something for the brass band medium. She's well known in the jazz world. She has an ensemble which tours. She's an award-winning composer. Having her to write something for the brass band media is a real coup for Miss Coop.
Very good.
Thank you for
You're absolutely correct. And this is a passion of mine, and it's something that we do not do enough, is look out of our own sphere to invite artists and composers and writers to be to help us move that way, to broaden our voice and to find new ways for writing for band. I first heard Claire Cope's music. She wrote a short piece for the Fairy Band to include in their family concert that they did last year at some point. I can't remember exactly when. And I was really taken by the piece. I found out a little bit more about Claire, and then I got in touch with her to see if we could commission her to write a piece as part of our festival. At that point, I didn't know it was going to be a piece for trombone quartet and brass band, but that's, as these things develop, that's what it's turned out to be. I didn't give her any kind of brief, really. And she came back and said, I really like this idea of exploring the Green Chapel, which is a reference to Lud's Church in the south bit of the Peak District, and an interesting story about a 14th century religious group that used to meet in secret at this very remote church in the Peak District. Fascinating subject, and told really vividly through this three-movement piece. I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, the quality of Bones Apart speaks for itself. They're great, and that's going to be one of my highlights, I know already.
And talking about another highlight, go back to you, Chris. Tranquil Abiding by Paul Miller. You heard this piece played by Foden's at the St. Asaph Festival. I think that Paul, of course, now curates and leads.
It was Paul's 50th birthday concert. Yeah, that's right. Back at the end of
and again,
November.
Wonderful. I know we heard a piece by Paul last year, which was played by Foden at Abnazi. It was from Purcell, I think, a young person's guide, the orchestra type music, wasn't it? But he's written, he's a brass band man at heart, I think, Paul, I have to say that, even though he's got the choral music at his feet. But yeah, interesting piece, and you really enjoyed it. I think the audience will really enjoy this one as well.
I was really taken with this piece when I heard it in St. Asaph. It's sort of framed by two slow movements, really beautiful, luminous music in the outer movements, and a ferociously difficult middle movement, very, very demanding. But there's some wonderful sounds in the outer movements. The first movement's very different. I think I was saying to you, Ewan, previously, that it was inspired. There's a lot of Buddhist imagery in it, but it was actually inspired by long walks that Paul takes by moonlight along the cliff paths of North Wales. So it's this strange amalgam of Wales and Buddhism. It's an interesting mix.
Well, Wales and Methodism we've had, but Wales and Buddhism, I never know.
That's something. But no, it's a piece that I thoroughly enjoyed, so I'm very much looking forward to hearing it again. I think Paul's going to be there to hear it on the night as well.
And interesting as well.
He does say in his program note that it's about a Buddhist tradition that's about the state of peaceful and calm mental stillness. I'm just thinking about the mindset of the players as they're playing that middle movement.
There's not a lot of calmness in there, is there? Really,
I was going to say, the mindset, I think, doesn't it start with a baritone player? I think so. There we are. So it's not often that the spotlight comes on a baritone player. So if I was the Foden's baritone player, calmnip, Buddhism, and calmness.
I tell you, it is ferocious, that middle movement. It really is.
And interesting, without quite quickly on this one as well. Philip Littlemore has done I think he's cleaned up variations on the Shining River. He's cleaned it up better than Southwest Water, I would have thought, when it comes to this. So he's done his job there. He does wonderful. He did some stuff with Vaughan Williams music, etc. So very interesting piece, because Shining River is really illusion. It's only almost like a little snippet of a piano little exercise, isn't it? It's nothing to do with a walk on the Silvery Tay or anything to do with that. But a beautiful piece, and that'll be really interesting to listen to. And then the first of the Philip Spark major works, Partita, which is a real tour de force written for Icanga Band back in 1989. So what a start we're going to have to the festival. Yeah. So there we go. That's on the Friday night. We will all be breathless, and we will be back first thing on the Saturday morning. And great. And I can say to David as well, over the last couple of years, it's now the International RNCM Festival. We've had Tres Etoile, who came and absolutely blew everybody's socks off. And then we had Athena Brass last year, which made such an impression with their scope and quality of the music making that they did with us there. And this year it's the Concord Band, the current Danish champions. There they are, celebrating after winning that event. They're going to be conducted by Stig Mørsk with their soloist Jesper Juel Vindal, who usually is their conductor but is an exceptional trombone player. David, great to have them invited to you. And this is part of what you were looking at the festival, is broadening those horizons.
Yeah, so when I was asked to take over the festival, one of my aims was to do exactly that, make it a little bit more international in terms of the performers, in terms of the music, the whole scope, and to be able to bring international bands in is great. And it couldn't have fallen better for me. Tresotwell, as you say, were fantastic. Last year's performance by Athena was emotional. You know, it was really hit the right. Really hit the right spot, and bringing Concord, who I've worked with a few times now. Again, that's great. They've got such a heritage. The heritage in Danish banding is really to be admired. And once, I mean, of course, Stig and their music committee, headed by Stig's brother, actually, Stefan Mørsk, who is the solophonic player with Concord. Once I said, well, I want to feature as much of your favourite Danish brass band music, and once they started flinging pieces at me, I thought, wow, there's so much I don't know. I mean, the piece Per Norgard doing, that was written in 1968, and I just didn't know the composer. I didn't know the piece. Fascinating. It's a set of variations based on a Beatles tune. You can't do that, which is not. I'm ashamed to say I don't know that Beatles song.
No, not me. That's not one that I know.
Okay. Anyway, that's what it says. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Jesper is an incredible trombonist, first trombone with the Danish National Symphony, and also head of brass at the Conservatoire in Copenhagen.
And the Gromdahl's a wonderful concerto, isn't it? It's a fabulous piece.
Beautiful, and so that fitted really well with this, and obviously the music of Jakob Wilhelm Larsen. That's going to be great, and Jakob's going to be with us all weekend. A really interesting piece, the Magel Hope. That is a big piece. They're only playing part one. But they're playing part one, which is brass band and organ. It's all about the Battle of Copenhagen, 1802. From vague memory.
Just after 6 o'clock, right?
Yes, exactly. But the second part of it as choir, it's a huge piece. Again, not one that I knew anything about, and so I'm going to look more into this. But that I'm so delighted with the way that program has shaped up, and I've tried with the international bands. Actually, with all the bands, I've tried to be as collaborative as possible, working with the bands, working with the conductors, because I want the not for it just to be a David Thornton or an RNCM program, if you like. I want it to each program to have that its own personality, and so we get seven separate events, or all that feel they've got a different kind of colour to them. So, and that's exactly what we're getting.
I have to say with Jakob Larsen, I worked with him with Tredegar Band some years ago. He did we were doing like jazz, very cool jazz CD recording with him. Very, very clever arranger. He did a couple of pieces. The Saga of Turfin, I think, is one of them. And Ravenscroft Variations, which I know people will say this is like a showcase for elite level banding, but Ravenscroft Variations has been played by third and fourth section bands. It's a wonderful piece, and it's one really to look out from there. And with Chris as well, we've heard Concord at the European Brass Band Championships. They're a fine band, aren't they?
They are a fine band, and still a band that's just seemed to get better and better. I mean, I have to say I love this program because it's really bringing something different. I knew Per Norgard had written something for band, but I didn't know what it was. Now I know, which is fantastic. So that's for me. That's because I know his symphonies pretty well. So I mean, it's fantastic to see that in there. So I mean, this is a Danish band bringing proper Danish repertoire, which is fantastic.
Yeah, finishing off with a bit of Carl Nielsen from the ballet Masquerade that he did, which is like a little 5-minute piece about the chickens or whatever it is, or the cockerels, I have to say, from there. Nothing to do with Spurs supporters if they're out there, so there we have to see that. Well, after that, we have then one of the real highlights of the whole weekend, which is the 4Barsrest interview undertaken by Iwan Fox, where I'll be linking up with 3 of the composers who are being featured here at the event. It's a free, so come along. It's going to be with Richard Blackwood, Philip Spark, and the last person is just lost my train of
Actually,
thought.
the last person is Anthony Smith, so not a composer, but involved in the publishing.
Yes.
So we'd be able to talk, I would have thought, then with Richard and Philip about the compositional process, and also with Anthony Smith, of course, who is with Nimbus Publishing, who's our sponsors tonight of this great episode, how you actually get an idea from the initial stages all the way through to his final and straightaway performance and a world premiere. So that'll be very interesting indeed. So after that, we've got the afternoon performance, which is given by Tredegar Band, conducted by Ian Porthouse, and their soloist will be the amazing euphonium player Glenn Van Looy. That's at 3 p.m. And again, as always with Tredegar, they've gone a little bit left field with their programming and their content. They start off with A Spark Forgotten by a wonderful young composer, Tamsin Crook. It's a 7-minute piece, very talented young composer. Then we have the Bourgeois Euphonium Concerto, a fearsome piece. I think that's the best way to describe it. Then we have a lovely piece, a major work, Melisande by Phil Lawrence, which is going to be given the world premiere. And they're finishing off with a real classic bit of Philip Spark, Land of the Long White Cloud. And again, first of all, back with Chris. We've heard music given by Phil Lawrence in the past. Yeah. This is a piece which is inspired by a day in the life of a golden spaniel. And how it goes about the garden. I think the dog meets a tortoise, the dog meets a squirrel, looks into a goldfish bowl, and then comes back exhausted at the end of the day. It's a bit like Werner Henze's Ragtimes and Habaneras meets Bernard Herrmann's Psycho. That's the best way I can describe it. It is very surreal, great fun, very witty, very acerbic, and very, very difficult.
Yeah, you've been quite taken with this piece, Ewan, haven't you? I know we've spoken about it a couple of times, and I think we should hear more of Phil Lawrence's music. Sadly, he's no longer with us, but I think lived in France, didn't he, for quite a few years. And I think his Day in the Life of a Knight was used in the regional championships a year or two ago, but we've heard relatively little of his music. I think he was quite active in the field of music for television, film, etc. So I'm very much looking forward to that, I have to say. And also the Bourgeois Euphonium Concerto, because of all of Bourgeois' music, it's a piece that I don't know particularly well. But one thing is sure, anything by Derek Bourgeois is hard. Glenn Van Looy, what a wonderful, wonderful soloist to be playing it. So I'll certainly be looking forward to that.
I'm going to ask David, do you know about the Bourgeois? Did you ever play it? Or he wrote so much stuff. All I can say is he recorded it with Tredegar some time ago on a CD called Stepping Out. Wowee, it's really on the edge of possibility stuff.
There's a reason why you haven't heard the Bourgeois Euphonium Concerto very often. It's brilliant. It's brilliant music. He wrote it in the early 90s for a soloist called Wendy Picton.
I remember Wendy Picton.
Wendy
My
Picton.
God, yeah.
So and Wendy played it, and I've got somewhere at home I've got a cassette tape of the premiere that was on. I know I don't know what I'd play it on now, but I got a cassette tape of the premiere, which was on Radio 3. Of Wendy with Leyland Band, I think, and it is absolutely the high range writing is just you take a look at it and think, oh no, thank you very much. I'll put that back. But good on Glenn, and if there's a player that's going to do it, it's going to be Glenn, because he's got that such a sweet shining sound in the upper register. And so really the perfect person for it. So I'm looking forward to that. We have been messaging backwards and forwards a little bit. He is practicing furiously.
Well, I know he's coming up due to do a masterclass, I understand, on the Friday as well. He's also doing a masterclass at the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire. So if you're a euphonium player and you're anywhere near around, he is a player you really need to go and listen to. It remarkable, an absolutely remarkable performer. And going to the test piece of the Philip Spark, Land of the Long White Cloud, I think myself and Chris, we are old enough to remember this when he first came out.
Never.
It is, and talking about Philip Spark, I say about the impression he's made around the world. It's been used as a test piece at 40 contests and has been given 232 own choice contest performances. That's a remarkable statistic about any brass band piece. All right, you may go back to the Life Divines and whatever, but it just shows how he, right from 1979, 1980, when it was written for the New Zealand National Championship, he immediately got the zeitgeist. He immediately knew what was required to test bands, but also to entertain audiences.
I think it was his first major piece, Ewan, wasn't it? If I remember, and he'd written some smaller concert pieces, but I think it was his first major piece. And yet, after all these years, and you look at the vast amount of music and high quality music that Philip Spark has written, that piece is still a standout piece, and it's just a wonderful piece of writing, isn't it?
It is difficult for conductors at the beginning because it sounds as if it's very easy, but it's very difficult, I think, to conduct. But then it goes into some wonderful tunes. But that's fantastic. Now we got some comments that have actually come in. Tim Mewton, of course, who will be there, who will be coming. I know he's a great supporter of this event. He says, "But one for you, David." He says, "Have you been able to persuade the BBC to record some of the concerts we hear on the weekend for Radio 3? So have you got good news for us for that?"
I certainly have. Yes, Radio 3. Are recording and will broadcast all of Saturday evening's concert with Black Dyke, and that concert will be presented by BBC presenter Mark Forrest, and they're also taking snippets from elsewhere in the festival to be broadcast in several of their programmes. So it's great, and I've got to say, I don't press gang at Radio 3. They come to us and say, we want to be part of this. And they know the quality of the performances, they know the quality of the music, so that's a great thing. So the answer is yes.
Well, great stuff from that. Following on from Triniga's performance, it's wonderful to see the junior RNCM brass band conducted by a great mucker, Mark Bousfield, with their soloist Oliver Tattersall, and they will be playing in the Opera Theatre at 4:45. It's great to have these young performers being part of this festival. It really is inspirational both to them, but it's also so enjoyable for people who, even jaded old critics like ourselves, to come and listen to young performers playing so well. And talking about Philip Spark, they will be playing Lucerne Dances, which was one of his latest works, which I just heard at the Swiss National Championships. It is typical Spark. Beautifully written, so melodic, so open, so transparent, still very difficult and hugely enjoyable for the performers and listeners alike. So you must be very proud that these youngsters are part of the event, David.
Oh, absolutely. And Mark Bowsey is such a great educator and instills such enthusiasm and boldness in the way the young players approach the performance and how they learn music that's really not easy. That's a challenging program. Oliver Tattersall is a really talented young soloist, and so he'll do a fantastic job of Pete Meakin's Song of Hope. And I don't know if do you know Fanfare and Funk by Oliver Westby? Do you know that piece?
But I know Oliver. He doesn't look like the type of bloke who likes funk, but a lot of his music has got a funky beat to it, isn't there?
You need to hear that. That is a great piece. That is really good. So that's a really fantastic program put together by.
So much variety in that program. It's a great little program. That really is.
Yeah, Star Lake by Eric Ball, and then finishing off with a bit of funk by Oliver Westby. That covers just about everything under the sun there.
Yeah.
Well, the Saturday night performance, I think.
Go on. I'm so sorry.
Indeed.
Before you start, because I know I'm getting the format now. Before you start going on, I wonder whether you've got the correct program for Black Dyke before you read it out.
I think we have, David. I think we have.
We understand there has been a little bit of a late substitution here, but we have Black Dyke. I take it they're still going to be conducted by Professor Nicholas Child, so I don't think there's going to be any change there. And the soloists are Yasuaki Fukuhara, Tom Hutchinson, of course, who was the newly installed principal cornet, and Adam Bucharest. It starts at 7:30. They've got music by Paul Levitt Cooper, a premiere by Philip Spark called Gemini, which is a duo concerto for cornet euphonium. Then they have Wildfire, which is a world premiere by Bruce Broughton, of course, who brought us the piece Heroes a couple of years ago at the Albert Hall. A little bit of Jakob Willem Larsen with Aureum Spiriti. Then we have the remarkable Yasuyuka Fukuhara, who is playing the percussion concerto by Simon Dobson. And then they're finishing off with a real bit of a splendour with the Festu Romana from Pines and Rome, of course, from Respighi. So they're really pushing the boat out to showcase what they do. And I understand they're doing something else as well. So what is that little bit of extra?
Little bit of extra. Little bit. Well, they're just slipping in there a tiny little bit of Gregson, the symphony in two movements. Which was,
right, a snippet.
I bet the band love Nick for that, David.
But that is a fabulous piece. I know we celebrated Edward Gregson's music last year. That is a great piece, and the band play that so well. So I'm delighted that they're featuring that. Again, Nick does fantastic programs here at the festival, and I'm delighted with the way this one's shaped up. I mean, where do you start? With the duo concerto, brand new Philip Spark music, Tom Hutchinson and Adam Bucharest. There you go. That's going to be an absolutely knockout in the performance, and it's always fascinating to hear a new piece by Philip. The Bruce Broughton piece, I know is the serious side, if you like, of Bruce Broughton.
Yeah.
It's in his own words, a heroic and tragic tribute to the stories surrounding the Californian wildfires from early last year. So that's very, very descriptive music. That's going to be fascinating. And then Yazoo's performance of Simon's concerto. That's going to be great, isn't it? Again, that's fascinating inspirations behind that.
Yeah, I have to say as well, because he's just launching a new CD on the Diane label. It's called The Hall of Healing, which that work is actually going to be featured. Remarkable play. I think, didn't he play with Fairies Band some years ago and whatever?
I think he played, there was a concerto that he played at the festival some years ago I think it was by Rodney Newton.
Rodney Newton.
Was it called Golden Apples of the Sun or something of that?
That's it, exactly. Golden Apples of the Sun.
And that was with Fairies, as you say, David. I remember that quite well. I mean, that was in the days when he was a student, I think, wasn't it? But yeah, one heck of a player.
Remarkable. I have to say, an absolutely remarkable performer. So yeah, we have Black Dyke adding a little bit extra there on Saturday night under Professor Nicholas Charles. As I say, tickets for each of these events are going really well, and I know tickets to see Black Dyke, as always, are at a premium, and not surprising if they're finishing off with something a little bit of Respighi as well. I think
what a finale! What a finale!
Yeah, given the
CD,
off by then.
Fabulous way to end the programme, because the Respighi CD that the band. Well, in fact, one CD of the year, Ewan, didn't it? But
it did, both for yourselves at Brass by World and also for 4Barsrest. So yeah,
absolutely. I mean, a wonderful disc and a fabulous way to end their programme. Fabulous.
So Sunday, the final day of the festival, and we kick off at 11 o'clock at the RNCM Concert Hall with the RNCM Brass Band, conducted by Katrina Marcella Wheeler. There she is there. Also with Chris Binns, I understand, is doing a Masters in Conducting and is making an impression. I think he's been conducting orchestras as well of late, so he's really branching out there. And they've got a soloist, Louis Crony, who is the remarkable soprano player with Ensemble de Cuivre Jurassien in Switzerland. And I say remarkable because if you're going to make a mark as a soloist in Switzerland by winning the Swiss National Solo Championships, you've got to be some player. All you have to do is look at the list of former winners of that event. And to do that, I think you have to be some player indeed. There is a link between the Swiss National Solo Championships now, and they offer the prize to their winner there to come over to play on an international stage. So, David, you must be, again, thrilled to welcome yet another fantastic Swiss player to come over and really showcase what they can do for us.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to be on the adjudication panel last year for the Swiss National Solo event and Quartet event. Louis, in fact, Louis is going to perform the piece that he won the competition with as well, which, as it turns out, is a piece that we didn't know at the time because he put a pen name on it. But he's going to play a piece that he's written for himself, he really is a spectacular performer. He's got everything. I mean, that kind of sweetness, the kind of Pete Roberts sweetness, and the real kind of. When I say the word laser beam, it sounds like I'm critical, but that kind of exciting impact soprano playing at the same time, and that piece really does showcase all of that. So delighted we've got that association with the Swiss organisation, and delighted that Louis is going to come and be a guest at our festival.
And I'm going to ask Chris as well. It's great to have I know it's a work, Erlen Waddlin's Gold Saturday. Now, Erlen, we go back to right at the beginning of our broadcast talking about John Wallace. Erlen was a guest on the John Wallace Brass Matters podcast, where she admitted that she would love to write for brass band again. Now, whether or not we get the opportunity, she is in so much demand. She had a proms performance, etc. So whether or not we will be able to have another major work from Erlen Waddlin would be great indeed. But it's great that we're actually getting to hear her work again, Chris, because she is such an important British and global composer.
Yeah, hugely influential away from brass bands, and as David was saying earlier, it's about expanding the boundaries, isn't it? It's about pushing those boundaries, and a composer like Erlen Waddlin, who has written for brass band, couple of pieces. There's Gold Saturday, which I think was written for the Olympics, wasn't it? The London Olympics, I think that was, and then there's Chrome, I think, is the other piece, isn't it? Which
huge work,
which is a pretty mighty piece, So. Absolutely the sort of composer that we want writing for brass band. But I'm looking forward to hearing Gold Saturday. Long time since I've heard that. So,
and I'm going to ask David as well. You got Erlen Waddlin, who has made a global mark on it. There's a piece called Tabby, The Journey by Theo. Is it Koita Bocard, which you're giving the world premiere? Tell us a little bit about this, because on the one hand we have, like a global presence of the composer, and somebody now who's taking their first steps.
Yeah, so Theo wrote to me, let's say 10 months ago. Might have been longer actually. But Theo, and he sent me this piece, and I was taken by it straight away. Very interesting. He describes it as a sonic journey. He's trying to play with the sounds and sonorities of different combinations within the band, and I think he does that so well. Theo is half Swiss, half Japanese, and lives in Switzerland. Young composer, and just not. Again, this comes back to, like I was talking about with Claire Cope, when we've got composers here that are not shackled by our history. Yeah. Our history is brilliant. We celebrate it, and it's the best and sometimes the worst part of what we do, isn't it? But I always find it fascinating when composers that come from somewhat outside the genre. Theo is involved with brass bands, but writes with influences that come from outside the genre, and that then brings new voices. Not always the way that we're comfortable or used to playing. It's combinations of instruments and harmonies and sonorities and balances and dynamic processes that are unusual to us, but that's good, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because otherwise we keep playing pieces that we think we've heard before somewhere. Actually,
I think that's a point you always come up with, Chris, is that is hearing these new voices, and you've had them over the last few years. We had electro design music, I think, last year, didn't we? We had somebody else. Some of the student pieces have been, really inventive, and that's one of the great joys of the festivals for us when we're listening.
Yeah, it's just a fabulous thing that people and young composers are doing things like that, and we want. this is the whole point of the festival, is that we want it to celebrate brass band music. We also want it to challenge us. We want it to give us adventures in music, if you like, things that challenge our ears, things that give us, as David said, those new sonorities, those new harmonies, those new combinations of instruments that take us away from the traditional. And you know, yeah, of course, that the heritage that we have is there to be celebrated, but there's absolutely nothing wrong, far from it, with new experiences like this. It's one of the wonderful things about the festival, and I think it's great that David is very consciously trying to take it in this direction and expand those boundaries.
I think it's one of the great things when you actually walk out of the concert hall and people, the one piece that they're talking about is not the established, Cloudcatcher Fells or whatever like that.
Yeah.
It's the piece you say, well, what did you think of that?
Yeah,
and you get people talking about, and that's the key for composers.
Absolutely.
If they just forget about it quickly, that's no good at all. It's when the people get talking about it. So great. Congratulations with regards to that. We're really looking forward to The Journey, Tabby by Theo Coita Bocard. After that, we've got the RNCM Low Brass and Young Trombones on the RNCM Concourse. No ticket required, just sit back and enjoy some great playing from there. Before, we've got the Yorkshire Youth Band, conducted by Richard Marshall, taking up the baton. Great to see Richard. With their soloist, Phoebe Mallinson. Now, there's a picture of Phoebe there. She will be playing the Concertina for Flugelhorn by William Himes. So it sounds very traditional, but I know it's a very, very tricky work. And also included in that program, there is When One Sees Light by Mia Lee, and then finishing off with a real thumper, Legends in Brass. So again, the Yorkshire Youth Band, part of the Black Dyke setup, etc. Great to have them part of the festival, David.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a misprint that I think I hope I've corrected. It's Mia Yee, not Mia Lee.
Right.
So I've definitely corrected that in the in our program now as we go into
My
the weekend.
apologies to Mia.
No. And she's a young composer from New Zealand that Richard found that piece and brought it to the program. So I'm delighted with that. And you're absolutely correct. The William Himes Concertino is a beautiful piece of music, so well written, and again that will suit Phoebe's playing brilliantly. A current student of the RNCM and alum of the Yorkshire Youth Band, and now, of course, playing at Black Dyke. So lots of interconnected stories there.
Well, we're coming to the climax, really, of the weekend, and two heavyweight performances. The first given by the Corey Band, conducted by Philip Harper, soloist Brett Baker at 3 p.m. And the picture there is of Richard Blackwood. Now, a year ago at the RNCM, Philip came in and told people we were having a discussion about where new music is going to come from, and excitedly told everybody that there was a joint commission between 5 bands, Corey, Flowers, Tredegar, the Cooperation Band and Fodens, which was bringing this piece Orbital, which he hoped would be able to have a world premiere in a year's time at the RNCM Festival. There's been so much work done on it. Philip has been really part of that. It's been brought together with work by Richard, especially with Anthony Smith at Nimbus Publications. There's been a joint commission, of course, with Radio 3. And I think fittingly, it's going to be given that world premiere by Corey, conducted by Philip, as part of their concert on Sunday afternoon. So it's a great piece. Everybody is looking forward to it. Possibly it ticks all the boxes which are required about a modern test piece, and it's not going to be too long. So I think this is going to be one of the real highlights. Chris, we are looking forward to it.
Yeah, as you say, I remember Philip announcing this last year, and when we were having the discussion, and I think it's probably one of the most it's probably one of the most eagerly awaited premieres that I've sort of been aware of for quite a long time. I've listened to quite a lot of Richard Blackford's music recently. There was a recording of his cello concerto that was released quite recently. Well worth listening to for anybody that wants to just get into the sound world of Richard's music before they listen to this piece. His music is very challenging technically, but there is a lyricism, there is melody in there. I've not heard this piece yet. I think you have, Ewan, so you've actually sat and listened
Yeah.
to the piece, but very, very eagerly awaited, and a piece that I think will be with us, I hope, for quite a long time.
Interestingly, we have Alec Gallagher, who is, of course, he always comes to this event. He's not a contesting man, he's a concert man, I have to say, with Alec. He says, let's not keep this fantastic festival to ourselves. Invite the national arts critics. The Times chief arts man is an ex-bander. I know him, yeah. And I think he'll be pushing at an open door. Well, I'm going to say for you, David, the door is always open for anybody from any of the media, and especially the national media. And it would be great if we continue to get that coverage. I know that, strangely, in an odd way, I know there's interest about brass banding at the present time from the USA. There's a leading magazine which is looking about possibly doing a review of the festival. So that's something to look out there. So hopefully that open door will include a number of critics.
Yeah, we certainly don't close any doors. That's for certain. We invite as many of that type of people as we can. As we say, it's great that we're getting that national interest for Radio 3. It's also interesting that because the event is recorded and filmed as well, that very often those pieces have a life of their own afterwards, or the recordings have a life of their own. Just to pick up on what you were saying about Richard Blackford's piece, I'm hugely looking forward to that. And you're hinting there that it would be a good test piece. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have?
But I think first of all, it's great
one
that
of our domestic contests to pick up something along those lines.
Wouldn't it just?
And I was talking about that. There's another piece, Ravelin Unraveling, that Corey play, and they were involved in that. It was commissioned, I think, 2016 for them to use, and they used it again at the European Championships a few years later. One of Philip Sparks' pieces, well worth re-examining again. I think it's based on Ravel's La Valse, and people tend to forget sometimes he writes these pieces, and I wouldn't say they're forgotten about, and then they reappear, and everybody says, blimey, where has that been? And I think this is one of them. It's such a clever, very inclusive work, but the way in which it's put together makes for a lovely listening experience. And I think in relation and contrast to Orbital, I think that's going to be a real treat to the listeners, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this piece, as you say, at the European. It's an incredibly clever piece of writing. And Ravel, I think, is a composer that's very close to Philip's heart. I mean, Ravel pops up in a number of his pieces, along with one or two other composers like Copeland, etc. But I remember Corey playing it phenomenally well at the European Championships, and as you say, it's based on Laval, so that there is a certain amount of familiarity with it, but it's what Philip Spark does with it that's the genius of the piece.
Well, that's it. And one special mention, I have to say, Brett Baker will be playing Light Fantastic for trombone and brass band by Philip Wilby. I think that's the one that's based on, is either like the chaplain or something like that, or one of the churches or whatever, who's a bit light on his feet. Loved a bit of dancing. I think that's the piece. It's a fantastic work. So we're really looking forward to that. Brett actually played a solo at this event in 1995. So you have to go back. Sorry, 2005. I'm not giving. He's not that old. 2005. So with Black Dyke. So
he's not quite as old as us, Ewan.
No, but he looks good at it. I have to say, for Brad, he does that part of it there. So that's the Corey Band, one of the real highlights of the festival. Following that, there will be a Brass Bands England discussion. A little bit what Alec Gallagher has talked about inviting the national arts critics. This is about brass bands and the media. Now, I know I'm going to be involved with it. Hopefully, Chris, we'll get you with your opinions with it as well. So it should be a very interesting discussion. I don't think it's about the brass band media per se. Is hopefully how we do get the wider national media involved and interested in brass bands. But as I say, there's some positive signs in many areas that brass banding now is starting to prick the interest of both BBC, Radio 3, etc., and Radio 4, but also the wider parts of the media as well globally. So that's going to be interesting to listen to. And finally, then, we come to the final concert of the evening, of the whole of the festival, given by Brighouse and Rastrick Band, conducted by a certain Dr. David Thornton. There we are. To tell you that he's going to be busy is going to be an understatement. So he'll be doing everything there, and then right at the end of it, he's got to pick up the baton and conduct the British Open champions. The soloists are Les Nish and Chris Robertson. Demanding programme. You've got, David, 2 concertos there. One for Chris with the Torstein Organ Nielsen, Euphonium Concerto number 2, which I know, again, is another fearsome work. And then the work Concerto for Tuba and Brass Band by Dorothy Gates by the world premiere. So tell us quickly about those 2 works, contrasting works and 2 great composers for the medium.
Well, the Euphonium Concerto I can tell you all about because it was written for me in 2010. So I gave the premiere with Black Dyke in 2010 of Torstein's concerto. I remember it well. Fabulous music. Very demanding for the soloists, very demanding for the band. Really clever music. The first movement is inspired by, this is really interesting, inspired by Usain Bolt running his 9.58 world sprint record. And so you get combinations of 9.8, 5.8, 8.8. Very often in the first movement. Right, okay. And actually, that's a little programming connection with the first piece, because
the B from the band from Pete.
So that's a phrase that Linford Christie used to use, that when he started at his 100 metres, he used to go on the B of the bang. So anyway, there you go. Tiny little programming link. Then the second movement is of Torstein's concerto is a blues, a lot of marimba and euphonium combination there. Really clever scoring. Really soulful music. And then the last movement is called Ice. And really interesting effect here. He's got choirs of players doing multiphonics. So not just very often we hear it with one or a soloist, but here we got and you get this kind of icy sound when you hear the voice and the instruments together. You know, those overtones combining together. Really interesting effect. Great piece. We've been really, I know Chris has really got stuck into it and really enjoyed the musical and the technical challenges. The Dorothy Gates premiere with Les, a shorter piece. Dorothy says that the outer movements, it's fast, slow, fast. The outer movements were inspired a little bit by a visit to South Africa. So there's some that kind of South African rhythm coming through the outer movements, and then there's the Salvation Army connection between Les and Dorothy within the middle movement. Really melancholy, beautiful. Salvation Army writing based on, I wrote down here, based on the Salvation Army song Take Time to Be Holy. And actually, interesting that part of the way through that, the solo E flat from Brighouse, which of course is Sean Crowther, has a duet with the soloist. So Les and Sean do duet in the middle movement of that concertino. So really great. I'm again delighted with the way that programme shaped up. We've played Royal Parks a few times now. Audiences love Royal Parks.
It's a lovely, wonderful piece. Yeah,
Chris, that is, you know, George Lloyd's music very well, isn't it? You know, in many ways, tragic figure George Lloyd, isn't it? By the time the brass banding got to him, that he was just towards the end of his life.
It was.
But his music, especially that middle movement, but which people know well in part in Royal Parks, but the outer movements as well. It's a lightweight work, but beautifully, a bit like Joseph Horowitz's music, lightweight, stylish, elegant, but with deep meaning about it.
Yeah, I was going to say there are hidden depths in it. I mean, it's a wonderfully sonorous, and part of it is a tribute to the soldiers that were killed in that bandstand disaster in London, and it's just a wonderfully moving piece, as you say. There's a certain lightness about it, but I just think his music has hidden depths, a little bit like Malcolm Arnold to some degree, in that you know that there are moments in George Lloyd's music where you think, gosh, that really is quite beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to hearing that. It's a poignant, moving work.
And one quick one for you, David. Ondinas by Helena Zykowska, a world premiere. Tell us just quickly a little bit about that one.
So Helena's a student at the RNCM. It's a brief piece, and originally I asked her to write this last year to be premiered, but for various reasons it didn't get played, and so I'm delighted that we can program it this time. It's only I don't know, 3.5, 4 minutes long. Again, a little bit how we were talking with Theo Koita. Helena is playing with the sonorities of the band so cleverly, so imaginatively. It's a delightful writing, and it's great that we can program it in this final concert at the festival.
And what a piece to finish off the
What
festival.
a way to finish, yeah.
Music of the Spheres by Philip Spark. What a way to celebrate his 75th birthday. I think it's a wonderful tribute. It's the piece era defining, the piece that really redefined what was possible for bands to play at the highest level at the European Championships. It was written, of course, for the YBS band, talking about Peter Roberts, of course, on soprano, Shona White at the beginning of the piece. What a way to finish the festival, David. I think a fitting tribute also to Philip Spark on his 75th birthday. So you must be delighted that it's going to be finishing off with that one. You'll be exhausted, but I think the audience will be absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, it's the privilege of being able to influence and, well, essentially pick the programs, isn't it? You pick one of my favourite pieces, which by coincidence I'm conducting as well. Strange how that works, isn't it? To finish the festival, and I think my first festival we finished the program with, I don't know if you remember, Diversions on a Bass Theme, George Lloyd.
That's a great piece.
Again. Yeah, fabulous piece. Again, one of my real favourites. And to be able to finish the festival with Philip's music and this particular piece is absolutely fitting, ideal, really.
I think it's called artistic director's prerogative, David.
Yeah,
so you've got every right.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. Well, we've done an hour of the RNCM International Festival of Brass, which take place now on Friday the 23rd of January to the 25th, Sunday the 25th. If you haven't got your tickets, please make sure that you do. Go to www.rncm.ac.uk. Just click on the festivals and book your ticket. There is so much to enjoy. Fantastic bands, brilliant soloists, incredible repertoire, discussions, and even have a late night pint and we can tuck and chew over the fact of how to fix the brass banding world as well. Everything is going to be there. David, congratulations first of all on putting it all together, and we really do look forward to seeing you, those bands, those performers, and enjoying a wonderful weekend of music in the middle of Manchester. Many thanks indeed for joining us, and many thanks for everybody else who was tuned in to join for this special 4BR review. Chris, many thanks indeed, and we'll see everybody in a few weeks' time.